Today we are making my sourdough pumpkin roll bites. That's right, it's a pumpkin roll in bite-sized form. Let's go make them. This recipe is so much easier than doing a normal pumpkin roll. Instead of rolling it and dealing with all those cracks, I decided to make a mini version that is bite-sized. So they're little stacks of pumpkin roll cake and that delicious cream cheese frosting in between. You get the same flavors, the same textures, but it's so much easier to make. My full written recipe is linked down in the description below, along with the tools I use in this video. You can go down there, click that link, and it'll take you over to the blog where you can print and save the recipe anytime. To get started, you're gonna want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll want to grease and flour a rimmed baking pan. This is a 10 by 15 inch sheet pan. So we're just gonna set that aside. Before we get started, you'll want to set out all of your cold ingredients, so your eggs, your maple syrup if it's in the refrigerator, your sour cream, sourdough starter. You wanna set those out on the counter for about 30 minutes to come to room temperature. You can measure out and prep all of your other ingredients to give yourself a little bit of time. But then once they've set out for a little bit, you want to grab 1/3 of a cup of milk and you're gonna place it in a small saucepan. We're just gonna put this on the stovetop on medium heat for about 1 minute until it's warm to the touch. You don't want it to be steaming or boiling. We just wanna get this a little bit warm before we put it in our batter. While the milk is warming, you want to add 6 tablespoons of softened salted butter into a mixing bowl, along with 2 teaspoons of avocado oil. You can also use coconut oil, or you can even use a little bit of extra butter, but I do not recommend using olive oil. It will affect the flavor. So 2 teaspoons of avocado oil, and then 2/3 of a cup of pure maple syrup. So this is the pure kind, nothing is added to it, not the corn syrup based. In this recipe, we are using maple syrup through the cake and the cream cheese frosting. We are using 0 processed sugars. And then we'll want to grab a hand mixer, or you can use a stand mixer. We'll plug that in. And then we're gonna mix this on low speed for about 2 minutes until everything is combined. Once your milk is warmed, you just wanna take it off the heat and place it on your countertop. We'll then add in 2 eggs, just one at a time. So you'll wanna put one in, blend it together, and then add the other one. I'm gonna go wash my hands quick. Now we'll add in the rest of our wet ingredients. So first we'll add in 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, as well as 1/4 of a cup of sourdough discard, aka unfed starter, 1/3 of a cup of sour cream. You can also use plain unsweetened yogurt if you do not have sour cream. This makes the cake so delicious and moist. And then we'll add in 3/4 of a cup of pumpkin puree. Again, not pumpkin pie filling, just puree. And then next we'll add in our seasoning. So we'll first add in 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, as well as 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. This is gonna make it so yummy and spiced. 3/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and 3/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. Now for the baking powder, if you're gonna just continue this recipe and bake it right away, you can add this in. If you want to put a lid on this and pop your batter in the fridge for up to 24 hours to do a cold ferment and add more fermentation benefits, you want to wait until you're done with that and you're ready to bake. If you would like to do the optional cold ferment, you do not have to, but you can. While I'm making this video, I am just making the quick version of this cake. So I'm gonna add in 2 teaspoons of baking powder now. And then we're just gonna mix this on a low medium until well combined. I almost forgot our warmed milk. Don't forget that. So you're gonna add in 1/3 of a cup of milk that we just slightly warmed on the stovetop. Once that's combined, we're gonna add in 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. You wanna just add this in a little at a time and mix it on a low speed. As the batter starts to form and become thicker, you can turn up to a medium. You just want to have that mix until it's just combined. Don't over mix this. And then we're just going to take our beaters out of here. At this point, you can continue the recipe or do that cold optional ferment like I was talking about. To do that, you're just going to place an airtight lid or saran wrap over this and place it in your fridge for 12 to 24 hours. During this time, the sourdough cultures will ferment all the other ingredients, giving you more fermentation benefits. This also gives you more time. Say you want to make the batter the day before and bake the cake the next day, you definitely can. This just allows you to have a little more time before baking. Again, this is completely optional. I'm just going to proceed with the recipe. So you're going to grab your greased and floured baking sheet, and we're just gonna pour our batter onto this. So I like to use a rubber spatula. And then we're just gonna spread this out into an even layer on the pan. You wanna make sure the batter is spread in an even layer, that way it bakes correctly and bakes evenly. When you're done with that, you're gonna pop your sourdough pumpkin spice cake in your oven that's preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 18 to 20 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. While our cake is baking, we can whip up our cream cheese frosting. So you'll start with 6 ounces of softened cream cheese. This is just plain unsweetened. You want to make sure it's pretty soft. Next, we'll add in 1 tablespoon of sour cream. I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, what the heck? Why is sour cream going in a cream cheese frosting? It is a little secret that makes it so creamy and delicious. I promise it's amazing. If you don't have sour cream, you can also substitute this for a plain unsweetened yogurt. And finally, we'll add in 1/4 of a cup of pure maple syrup. Again, we are not using refined regular sugar or even cane sugar. We're using maple syrup. It tastes so good and it pairs perfectly with the pumpkin. Now we're just gonna grab our electric mixer with beater attachments. We're just gonna mix this together on low-medium speed until everything's combined and creamy. I forgot to mention, it'll take about 1 to 2 minutes to get it all creamed together. Now we're just gonna pop a lid or saran wrap on this to make it airtight. And it's gonna go in the fridge until our cake is baked and cooled. When your cake comes out of the oven, a toothpick can be inserted, and if there's no batter left on it, your cake is completely baked. And then you're gonna loosen the edges of your cake with a spatula. So just run it around all the sides. And then you're gonna lay a piece of parchment paper over the top, along with a cooling rack. So then you're just gonna put the cooling rack down like this, and then you're gonna use your hot pads, and we're just going to flip this over. Once it's flipped over, we will carefully take off the pan, and just like that, your cake is out of the pan and ready to cool. So now you're just gonna let your cake sit on the counter for about 30 minutes to an hour and cool before we continue the recipe. When your cake has cooled for about 30 minutes, you're going to take it off of the cooling rack, and then you'll grab a 2-inch cookie or biscuit cutter. I have a biscuit cutter, it's 2 inches, and then grab your frosting also out of the fridge. So now we're just gonna cut our cake into about 18 to 21 little round circles. You want to make sure you can get as many circles out of this as possible. I love my sourdough sheet cake recipes. I use them for cutouts all the time. I use my plain vanilla sheet cake to make sourdough Christmas tree cakes, just like Little Debbie's, but at home and so much better. That recipe is on the blog. I can leave that link down in the description below. But this Christmas, I'm going to make a video for that, so keep your eyes peeled if you're interested. This could also be a really fun recipe to make with friends, with family, with little kids. It's just a fun little recipe to do, and it's so much easier than rolling a cake for a regular pumpkin roll. I got the inspiration for this pumpkin roll mini bites recipe because I was making a regular sourdough pumpkin roll, but the cake kept cracking. I didn't have time to redo the recipe, so I decided to grab a cookie cutter and I just slathered some on and stacked it. And I got the stacking idea from my favorite bakery. They make these cute little mini stacked chocolate cakes, and I thought, why can't I do that with the pumpkin roll supply? So that's where this recipe came from. So I got about 20 cakes out of this, 20 little round cakes. And then you're just gonna set the excess cake off to the side. You can freeze this for later. It'll last up to about 3 to 6 months, and then you can nibble on it later if you would like. That is so good. Now you're gonna group these circles into 3s. So that is how many layers these little pumpkin roll bites are gonna be. This just makes your life so much easier when we are assembling them. Now I have 2 extras, so after I put them in sets of 3, there's 2 extra slices. You can just set those to the side and nibble on them, or you can just make a 2-stack cake if you would like to. You might only have about 18, or you'll have 21 and make perfect amount of cake. So now you're gonna take 1 stack at a time. You can set the other ones aside. And we're gonna take 1 stack at a time and we're gonna assemble them. So you're gonna put 1 on the bottom, and we're gonna add about 1 tablespoon of cream cheese frosting on top of that. Make sure you spread it to the sides and you don't skimp any. If you'd like to add a little more in between, you're more than welcome. But I like to do about a tablespoon or so. And then you're gonna add the next layer on top. You can wipe the excess that's squished out off if you would like to of the frosting. And then we're gonna add a tablespoon of cream cheese frosting on top of this. You might wanna hold that second layer of cake steady, that way it doesn't fall over. And then once you have that done, you're gonna add the 3rd layer on top. And that's how you make my sourdough pumpkin roll bites. And then you're gonna repeat this with all of your circles to make more 3-layer cakes. You'll get about 6 to 8 of these little treats. And then you can eat these right away, but I recommend popping them in the refrigerator for 1 hour before you enjoy them. They will last up to 4 days in the refrigerator. As they go, the cake will get a little more dry. So I recommend putting them in an airtight container. But this recipe is so fun, it's so easy, and it's so delicious. I hope this recipe finds a special place on your table this fall or your Thanksgiving menu. Until next time, go love your family and serve God 1 recipe at a time.